By now I'm sure you've realized that we're doing this in southern sunny California, so we had to move with the sun. Now we have a different background. That's why we keep moving this around. We didn't intend to do that, but as the sun moved, we had to move. So we're on the term God. Why does the Divine Counselor give us these different, get ourselves back in context here of where we are, and just let that, call it exposition if you want to. We're talking about the origin of things. And under origin, the Divine Counselor talks about deity, divinity, and God, just to get our concept straight of how we're referring to the originator of existence. Later on, we'll talk about the genesis of reality, which will be part of the history of reality. Right now, we're just talking about the one who started the whole thing, the personality, how the words which we refer to God, and how it's different from when we mean deity, and also how it differs from divinity. So we're talking about the three things: deity, divinity, and God. Right now, we're on the portion of first one called deity. We went through that deity operates upon three levels: personal, pre-personal, super-personal, and upon 7 different arenas of activity, which we had just gone through. And now we're going to be on the use of the word deity. It can be existential, like the eternal Son. It can be experiential, as the Supreme Being. This might disturb some people that God is evolving. We don't say God, the existential, is evolving. We mean that God, as we are best able to understand Him down here, by using created things in time and space. It's all we can understand, things that God creates. So anything like that cannot possibly be the existential God. So we're not trying to say that God, the existential, is evolving. We're saying that we are trying to get an understanding of God by understanding the things that God has used down here to help us understand Him. And the culmination of all that is what we mean by the Supreme Being. We'll comprise all of our different experiences together and compare them, synthesize them, and that will be the completion of the Supreme. But that is still not God as we know Him, as we refer to Him in the existential. When we pray to the existential God, but that is not what we're not capable of understanding that yet. So God is existential. He's also experiential. Deity refers to these things. We refer to deity meaning existential. Other times we refer to deity meaning experiential. So the word deity has many different uses. And another use is when we talk of God as a sevenfold. We talk of God as unity, we talk about as duality, we talk of God as Trinity. Now we're saying God is sevenfold. As we go through, we'll understand what that means a little bit better, because we're referring to many different things using so few terms. That's one of the difficulties that this Divine Counselor had. You have to stick with words that they know. But he's trying to bring in many different things by using the same word. So deity refers to God as sevenfold. We'll understand that as we go through here, how that comes in, what that really means. Just take it for granted at the moment. God as deity is undivided. Paradise Trinity. Deity is completely undivided there. The Father, Son, and Spirit, they form one. So deity is the source now of all that which is divine. We're comparing divinity term with the term deity. Deity is the source of all that which is divine. Deity is characteristically and invariably divine. Deity is total, invariably divine. But all that which is divine, for instance, ourselves, is not necessarily deity. We are divine humanity, you might say, but we're definitely not deity. Though it will be coordinated with deity. It will tend towards some form of unity with deity. Spiritual, mindal, and personal. There's where we do come in. We are coordinating, and somewhat already coordinated with deity on the spiritual, the mindal, and personal levels. As you notice, the material level does not. This, on page 2, we saw over there, all super-material levels. So we are unifying with deity on the spiritual, mindal, and personal levels. And you must say, well, how are we defined? There is one of the neat distinctions on page 3, the term divinity, and he tries to describe it. There's seldom definitions in the book. They're more or less circuitous descriptions and explanations rather than really definitions. So he's going to describe what he means by using the word divinity. You see, divinity can also refer to the existential Father, the existential deities. It can refer to us also, because we are sharing, unifying, one way or another, with deity. So divinity is a characteristic, the unifying and coordinating quality of deity. Divinity is a characteristic, the unifying and coordinating characteristic of deity. It's a little difficult to explain what that term is, except by seeing how he uses it in the rest of this section. I might come back to it later. Divinity is creature comprehensible. See, the word deity, divinity, what does it mean? It's existential. It has no relevance to us. But we can comprehend truth, beauty, and goodness. So those are the comprehensible elements of divinity. And that's the way that by us, ourselves, understanding these terms, truth, beauty, and goodness, and making them part of ourselves, we're building ourselves up into divinity status. And that's what existence is meant to do. To use all things down here, to get the truth and the beauty and the goodness out of them. See, before there's only 3 elements in reality: things, meanings, and values. And here it's referred to as truth, beauty, and goodness. Same 3 things referred to in different ways. This is the what we're supposed to be getting out of things, meanings, and values. We get beauty, truth, and goodness. And these are realities that make up our personality. Correlated in personality, these same 3 things again will make us into love, mercy, and ministry. And disclosed on impersonal levels, we refer to those same 3 things as justice, power, and sovereignty. These terms, as he says, are definitive guides. They're better understood as you go through the book. Right now we're only putting them in the context that these 3 things are the only 3 things that are referred to in many different ways, and they're what we are utilizing to unify our personality to become more God-like. And of course, right now, God-like is only on this one little level of evolving personalities in time and space. By the time we finish this, we will not be like God as he is existentially. We'll never become that. We can become like God experientially as we go through these different levels of reality. So divinity may be perfect. The word perfect actually comes from the word perfectio, the Latin term meaning made all the way through. Through, perfectio, to make. So completion of something. As on existential and creator levels of paradise perfection, in God, divinity is absolute. It's finished, it's complete. There's nothing to be done further on that. The existential levels and the creator levels of paradise perfection. There may be also imperfect, as on experiential and creature levels of time-space evolution. We're well acquainted with that because that's who we are. That's the level he made us in, the imperfect level, and he well understands that level because that's the way he wants it to be. There has to be perfection for us to evolve. Or it may be relative, neither perfect nor imperfect. There's 3 ways in which divinity may be viewed. It's perfect, imperfect, or relative. Now we're on the relative. It may be relative, neither perfect nor imperfect, as on abundant levels of existential - experiential relationships. That thing that comes to mind on that would be the master architects, for instance. They're transcendental. They neither perfect nor imperfect. They're simply have always been. Their existential experiential relationships. The creator, the master architects are experiential, but they're also existential. So they're at a different level, definitely, than we are. So when we attempt to conceive of perfection in all phases and forms of relativity, we encounter 7 conceivable types. It's well to understand that he's talking in all these 7 different ways. He's referring to divinity. So divinity is a broad term meaning very many different things, and you'll find us down here in one of these categories. So absolute perfection in all aspects, existential deity. Second, absolute perfection in some phases and relative perfection in all other aspects. He's defining it very carefully, and no part is going to be left out. Third is absolute, relative, and imperfect aspects in varied association. Absolute perfection in some respects, imperfection in all others. Absolute perfection in no direction, get close to us. Relative perfection in all manifestations, that's not us. Absolute perfection in no phase, relative in some, imperfect in others. That's not us yet. We're not relative in any perfection yet. Seventh, absolute perfection in no attribute, imperfection in all. But still, this is how we can conceive of divinity. It's imperfect. It's not absolute. So that's where we are, but we're heading towards other areas of divinity. It's a good thing to understand these terms. Deity is used in many different ways and in many different concepts with one term, meaning very many different things. Same with divinity. It's one word that is trying to explain many different concepts. Number 7 here under divinity, that refers to ourselves mainly. And you notice that we're the last, but in God's scheme, that is very fortunate for us. We get to experience more of the realm of reality than any other creatures that he has. So, in the scheme that God has prepared, the better administrators are those who have the greater experience. So, put it that way, we're fortunate. We start down here. And we hit the other levels, we're going to look back and say, wow, we're back there and planet Earth, called Urantia. That was pretty neat, wasn't it? As we see what has brought us in time to come. So we got to the third thing now. That first sentence where he's talking to make distinction between God, deity, and divinity. Of course, in time, as you go over these things more and more, it's taken quite a few years to get even little comprehension of these things. It'll become clear as we go through here. But deity, divinity, now we're on the aspect of divinity as God. God refers to the personality that possesses deity. When we use the word God, it's like calling somebody by their name. This is simply an appellation that we give to the one who possesses deity.